Episode 2.
Episode 2 of X-Men 97. Once again,
Mutant Liberation begins.
I gotta shout out because I was completely surprised and taken aback by this, that the fact that the opening credits seem to be changing every episode. Well,
It's
not seem to be.
dynamic. I love it.
Yes, I love it. Because we always have the opening shots of each hero, the heroic shot of each one with their name. And this one starts off immediately, lets you know that shit has changed. Magneto is now part of the team. Because we didn't mention that at the end of the first episode. Magneto with the good hair shows up. Maggie with the good hair shows up. And it's like, ha ha ha. Professor X left it all to me, niggas.
And also to that point, like in episode 1, because since he's allegedly dead, you don't see Professor X because he's in the original intro, Professor X, and he wasn't in this whatsoever.
No, whatsoever.
But yes, the second episode, you got Magneto coming in like, I got this shit. He bought NBC. You know, he in this bitch.
The nigga's got his new costume on. In the intro, he made some X out of some metal.
Costume.
Yeah.
With the arm and the arms out.
Yeah, the arm and the arms out. Look, you may deny it, but man is pure Zaddy. And that's, I think I also fuck with him because he's the one who bad Rogue. And unlike Gambit, he deserved it. So that's why I always fucked with Magneto. Word up.
And also that whole thing, like, because you get to see that, like, I didn't remember any of that. I was like, oh, they was fucking. Like, literally, as soon as they linked up, I was like, oh.
Okay, we'll get into that, right? But so we named, Mutant Liberation begins. This is actually the episode where Storm is having a conversation with Jean, because this episode is about Jean and Cyclops really thinking, okay, we're about to have this kid. We need to get the fuck out of here. You know what I mean? Like, we've been here too long. We old as dirt. And this is, once again, happened exactly like this in the comics. In the comics, oh God, no, I'll get into that in the third episode, because that's a whole nother original intention for characters that didn't work out.
You like actually these niggas, okay?
No, it's so interesting to me because Chris Claremont is one of these writers who plots ahead for years in advance. So he had all these plans for these characters.
And they told this nigga no.
And niggas just said, fuck your plans, nigga. And did whatever they wanted. And so it's just so funny because now it's like 30 years of people like, fuck your plans, Chris. And so this is the version of the characters. So we'll get into that in the third episode with Madeline Pryor, which is just, oh my God, that's so funny what she should have been.
So this episode, Magneto owned NBC and everybody.
And this episode is, the two major plots in this episode are Cyclops and Jean trying to leave, and Magneto saying, fuck it, I'll go on trial. Which, once again, is straight from the comics. I mean, down to the costume he's wearing, everything. And these are some of the first X-Men issues I ever bought, was Magneto going on trial. He goes to Paris. He goes on trial for everything he'd done as a villain at that point, which was, in the comics, hella shit. My nigga had sunken a Russian sub full of people. He raised a volcano in a Russian city, I think. This nigga was killing people left and right. So
it'd be like that.
It'd be like that. And basically he said it'd be like that because I'm a mutant and y'all niggas try and kill me. So he went on trial. And in the comics, he's actually pardoned of everything. And it went into this whole thing where he thought one of the judges was racist and they weren't. Like, he thought they hated mutants and they weren't. And so it was, Magneto fucked up and he had to reconcile that not all people hate him just because he's a mutant, and people will believe his story of he's been persecuted his whole life, so he's just fighting back. So it was a really dope story in the comics, and I really love seeing it translated here. And I thought they did once again, they condensed everything. They get straight to it. I thought they did a, admirable job with this.
Yeah, I agree. And again, with the dramatics and
oh my God,
Magneto, I forgot. Also, Magneto is for me one step below when it comes to Storm and the oration, or maybe they're both on the same level.
They're brother and sister in that.
The way they explain shit, and it be the most mundane shit, but the way they go into it, I'm just like, my God, that's poetry.
Yes.
And then with the hair and all this other stuff going on, it's just it's just phenomenal. And when you're watching this combined with everything else, it just gets you deeper into it. Like, it really gets you into the stories even more. Again, funny shit happening that maybe wasn't meant to be funny in this episode. Especially, I understand what it was, specifically when Jean and Storm had that little sit down together, and Jean was trying to explain, look, man, I'm afraid for this world, and what we're bringing our son into, and the fact that he's going to be persecuted. She had this conversation, and I get it. She wants better for her son. She's a mutant. This, I was fucking dying laughing as well, because again, I'm taking it out of context of that story. I'm just seeing a white woman tell a African, do you know what it's like to be different in America? And I was fucking rolling. And I know that wasn't the intention. Don't come at me. Don't at me with what the hell it was about. I know what it was about. I don't give a fuck. That shit was funny.
Because it's still what it was about. No, it's still, that's still real.
It's still, like, I was just like, out of all, and again, that's her sister, right? That's the person that understands her the most. So she gonna talk to Storm. Fine. But in that context, when she was sitting there, I don't know, Jean, and then the world and the life, and they hate us. I was like, that's an African you're talking to. What are you talking about?
You're still white.
You're still white, but
I mean, I know Scott shoots beams out of his eyes, but you're pretty good. Like, you can just walk around and, I mean, you can make it where niggas don't even know he's shooting beams out of his eyes.
My sentiments are out of context of that conversation and that specific story. I just found it hilarious. It was there.
Oh no, definitely. Now we mentioned this real quick, but I do want to talk about Rogue and Magneto because I love it. First of all, I love it, and I had to actually Google to see because, like I said, I didn't watch every episode of the original series. I watched like the first 3 seasons.
Was this in the original? They had they were fucking? Because I don't remember that.
No, it's not. It is directly from the comics, though.
Oh,
yes. So it's like they brought that story into this, and because Rogue like has time where it could have happened in her backstory, it was perfect.
Right.
So that was really dope to see. In the third episode, they get more into it with some direct callbacks from the comics that we'll talk about in that one. But I just loved it. I love that Magneto can touch her through the use of his powers.
And I was gonna say, and been touching her in that danger room day after day after day. Morph, when Morph clocked that shit, I was fucking going. He sent me to the fucking moon with that shit.
Yeah. So
I wanted to ask you about that. Is it because he's using that magnetism? Like, how was he able to? Because obviously, when they touch, you saw little sparks. So I was like, all right, something to do with the power. But what is it about that he's able to touch her? Comics, okay.
Like the in the third episode, which we'll get into, and I'll explain more in the third episode. Let's just say that for that one.
Okay.
How they're doing it, I'm not sure in this, but I'll explain more in the third episode. Some theories and shit, I guess, about it. Wrapping up some stuff in this episode, Jean has the baby, which is, the big moment that we've all been waiting for. She has little Nathan Christopher Summers, who grows up to be Cable in the comics. Sorry, spoiler for like a 40-year-old.
Not really
character.
A spoiler, but
yeah, I mean, shit's been around like 40 years now.
Yeah.
So he grows up to be Cable in the comics, and we'll see more of that directly in episode 3. I also got to point out, because you pointed out some white woman and shit, I want to point out some woman and shit, that while she is being driven to the hospital, going through labor, Jean still has to lift people up with telekinesis out of the way. Because for some reason, Wolverine is completely incompetent. Like, you talk about some goofy cartoon shit.
That was like cartoon shit.
That was some goofy
thing, Ben. Yeah. Some shit that's y'all did that shit to be campy.
100%, like, because that was like some 80s cartoon shit. Like, that was like the stupid shit people used to do on Scooby-Doo. Like, that was just ridiculous. Like, why is he driving on the sidewalk suddenly? Like, what?
Like, was it that serious?
Yeah, I guess maybe he thought that would get him there faster if he just killed some people on the way.
And then because she's in labor, and again, she's telekinetic, she's ripping the roof of the car is being ripped off. And I'm just like, bro, they're going to get there and anything? Like, they was going in on it. Then, also, you didn't talk about, I didn't talk about, because this was also the episode where Storm lost her power, right?
Yes. Okay.
So another thing about the black woman, and again, I don't remember if this was story. Well, I'm not gonna say canon. If this was comic story, or was it like in the animation? In the comics,
but go on.
That Storm of all people, is the one who catches it, trying to protect her bro. Her brother in oration.
Mm-hmm.
That she catches out of all of them, and again,
you didn't know that.
Only African. I vaguely remember. Like, when it happened, when it happened, I was like, I had something hit in my head, but I wasn't sure. But beyond that, it just goes back to, again, as a Black woman watching, I was just like, damn.
Yeah.
Why your ass had to catch the L? And then Magneto with the single, tear rolling down his eyes, when he was thinking about it. And then I got suspicious because I was just like, was this his plan? And I was like, no, that wasn't his plan. But was this his plan? Like, I started getting real suspicious too, because I always get suspicious of shit like that, especially when the Black woman got to take the L. I'm like, wait a minute. Was this part of the plan to get right with the fucking government and all that stuff?
No, I don't think so, because that nigga was about to murder the government.
I don't think so. Because my man was very serious about his speeches. So I think he is truly sad, but
no, that nigga was purely about to murder the government over that shit.
He was just like, he took this deep breath. He was just like, y'all niggas is lucky I don't drop y'all where y'all stand. Like, he's in the atmosphere with these niggas.
Yeah.
He should have dropped the fuck out of here person though.
Yeah. Should have.
He should have dropped him.
Yeah, definitely. No, once again, this is straight canon from the comics. In fact, in the comics, Storm loses her powers because she's trying to stop Henry Peter Gyrich again, always the dickhead. He has the neutralizer gun, which in the comics is created by Forge. I'm not sure if they're going to do that here, but in the comics, Forge creates his gun because he created it to battle these creatures known as the Dire Race, who were this alien race who was trying to take over the world. So he used it to fight them. But then the government, of course, takes it and is like, oh, this works on mutants? Word.
Bet.
So Rogue, at this point, is a big-time criminal. Most of the X-Men are, but Rogue
but she's really on some...
She's done some super wild shit at this point. So Henry Peter goes to track her down and catches her slipping, shoots her with the gun once, but has it on the low setting for, stun, and it doesn't really get her. So then he turns it up. She doesn't see him coming. Storm sees it, tries to push her out the way, and gets caught.
He was aiming for who?
He was aiming for Rogue.
Right.
And he catches Storm.
And like I said, that's why I said my mind was just like, something like this happened, but to whom and how? Okay, so they switched to was in harm's way.
They switched to because there's two different storylines, like I said before. Like, that happened way before the trial of Magneto. Way before, years before, and years in real time, and at least months before in comic time.
Yeah. And that was another scene where they did some firefighting, like fire action shit with fucking Magneto wrapping the things up and bringing in like literal like crusade swords down.
It's the sword of Damocles. I'm not sure.
But he had like multiple, the sword of Damocles, multiple
hanging
swords,
over their head.
And then Rogue using that as conducting stations to do the lightning. I was like,
another mutant circuit.
Fuck them niggas up.
Yeah.
And then that shit happened.
And then that shit happened.
I was like, God damn. Now she be gonna be all right, but damn.
No, and once again, like I said,
eventually. I said, why don't you go to Wakanda? I kept yelling, why don't you go to Wakanda? But
that might happen eventually too, because that's part of this storyline. Like I said, I should have known this was coming because they've announced 10 of the titles, and 2 of the episodes are called Life Death. And Life Death are big. The first one is all about Storm and Forge. It's when she finds out she's recovering with him, and then she finds out that he created the gun that took her powers. And it's why their relationship is one of my favorites, and it's also why they had one of the most fucked up relationships in comics.
Very fucked up relationship.
And then the second part of Life Death is when she goes back to Africa and reconciles who she is as this woman who was raised in Africa, who became this thief, who became an X-Man.
Yeah, and that's why I thought they should push her to go back and go over there.
They might do the Wakanda, and they might, but I don't think so, because I think that'd be too big for them to have the whole Black Panther franchise in this. And I really don't want to see that. I'd rather see the relationship with Forge play out. I know that I'm about to get no, I don't, nigga. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't care. No, I don't want to see the only 2 Black people that Marvel had at the time together. It never made sense to me, and it still doesn't.
Yeah, and that goes into episode 3 about the whole Storm Forge love story.
Yeah, we'll get into all that.
Yeah,
but Storm, to finish this episode up, Magneto is pardoned. Storm writes the 4-page letter, tells everybody deuces.
I'm out. I'm not one of y'all no more.
I'm not one of y'all niggas no more. I did love the shot of Nathan in the crib with all his stuff above him, because it seems like for a second, like, oh, this nigga's already got telekinetics. And then it's like, no, he's just looking at the mobile above his crib. I love how they did that. And then at the very end, oh, no, God damn it, we got to mention this shit, man. All right. Wolverine is sitting there crying by himself in a tree.
Damn. Cold world.
Morph shows up with beer and chips. Wolverine's not interested until Morph turns into Sabretooth.
Right.
And then Wolverine jumps down and they start play fighting.
They all kikiing together.
Look, nigga, this is the weirdest sexual shit that is going on.
I'm glad you said that because I felt sexual intention. Even when, I think it was either this episode or episode before when Morph was in. No, it was this episode, episode 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about that. But
I mean, we talk about
Morph.
Yeah.
When Morph goes into like the shower and he's looking and he's thinking Wolverine's up in there. So then, he's like,
let me scratch your back.
Kind of going at him, talking about, let me scratch your back. Blah, blah, blah. There is obvious sexual tension between the two. For me.
Oh, no, not for you, for everyone. And this goes back to the original series. And there was this big uproar when people found out that Morph would call himself a
when they would.
Yeah, they would not themselves. Okay. Yeah, they would refer to themselves as themselves.
Non-binary.
So there was a big uproar, and it was hilarious because once again, your memories are not serving you well. Because I went back and rewatched it, and in one of the very first episodes, because Morph gets not murdered, but Deadspin think he's dead by the third episode, so he's not in it for a lot of it.
That's my memory. That I don't remember that nigga.
Okay, but but he's also he shows up brainwashed. He's in a lot of the series, but I guess like I said, people don't remember him, but people did remember him, whatever. But people who did remember him didn't remember the scene in the first series when Wolverine tracks him down at this bar after he's left the X-Men. And Morph is like, I know what will bring you, I know what really brought you here, and turns into Jean Grey and attempts to kiss him. So it's already been established that Morph has an attraction to Wolverine and is pretty much non-binary because he turned into Jean Grey. Is like, I'll kiss him as Jean Grey. Now, that's interesting in of itself.
That's manipulative, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's all kind of weird shit. But the fact that you turn into Sabretooth.
That.
All right, now in the comics, Wolverine and Sabretooth have the most terrible relationship. Sabretooth is killed. Insane. Many people that Wolverine loves. There's actually a Sabretooth war going on right now in the comics where it's been said that Sabretooth, it's a love story in a way. It's a really fucked up love story, but he does love Wolverine in a fucked up way. So for Morph to turn into someone that Wolverine actively hates, for someone that has killed people that Wolverine loves,
but then they're kikiing, playing, fighting together.
It's a hate fuck thing, and that's why I'm like, this thing is getting really weird sexually because it's like Morph is like, oh, you want to, really what you want is to, give it to this man.
They're both very broken people. Remember
there
that.
It is.
Like,
oh, super.
If they weren't as broken, perhaps they can have an actual relationship. But they have to do it through the guise of, as you said, hate fucking and just being weird and all this other crazy shit that Morph has been doing for the last 3 episodes. But
I hope they fully keep on leaning into it. I'm pretty sure they are. But that was disturbing to me, honestly. Not disturbing. It's just like, wow, this relationship is,
it's fucked up. Like,
I thought the Krakoa had some weird sex shit in it.
No, it's toxic. It's a toxic fucking relationship. And like I said, it could just, if they, if you were just true to yourself, then fine. But no, everyone wants to be fucking weird.
And like you mentioned that episode 3 real quick, and like he says this to Wolverine, like Wolverine is used to hearing this.
Cause they've been doing it. That danger room got them in there too. Y'all don't understand what be going on in that room.
Yeah, look, nigga, you can make holograms of anything.
When Morph
that can lead to some wild
press
shit.
That button, and for 7 days straight, it said Rogue and Magneto.
Yeah. Well, they had to recreate some shit, and we'll get into that in that episode too, because that's all third shit as well. Last but not least, at the end of this episode, Jean Grey's clone. For everyone, once again, this is 40 years of comics knowledge. Madeline Pryor shows up at the door.
Soap opera,
and the drama continues, and that's pretty much it for episode 2.